There is a force more powerful than talent, more determining than effort, more influential than knowledge. It is the invisible perception that people form the moment you walk into a room. Before you speak, before you perform, before you reveal your heart, they have already made a decision about your worth. And most of the time, it's unconscious. If you have ever felt unseen, ignored, underestimated, or invisible in rooms where you knew you had something of value to offer, then this message is for you. It is not always your skills that are holding you back. It is not necessarily your background, your education, or your intelligence. More often than not, it is how you are presenting yourself to the world. And I do not mean your clothes or your posture alone. I mean the silent story your energy tells before your mouth can form a single word. Respect, like success, is not granted to those who want it. It is given to those who first claim it for themselves, in private, in silence, and with conviction. Most people go through life begging to be noticed. They perform louder, try harder, and overextend themselves to get what a quietly confident person receives without even asking. This is not magic, this is not mystery, this is a practiced art, cultivated over time, based on how you see yourself and how much command you carry in your presence. There is a profound difference between being loud and being heard. The word, between being available and being valued. The world senses your signal before it hears your voice. And here lies the trap. Society tells you to work hard, to be nice, to wait your turn. But in reality, the ones who rise are not necessarily the kindest or the most competent. They are the ones who understand how to carry themselves with gravity. When they speak, people stop. When they enter a room, attention shifts. And this, my friend, is not by accident. It is cultivated, it is trained, and yes, it can be learned by you. If you're willing to make a new commitment. The truth is, if people are constantly overlooking you, the world may not be rejecting your value, it may simply be unaware of it. Because value that is not framed correctly can go completely unnoticed. A diamond left in the dirt is indistinguishable from a stone, but a diamond held to the light commands awe. If you have been left behind, it may not be because you don't shine, but because you haven't yet learned how to step into the light and own it. The first thing you must do is stop expecting others to crown you. Do not wait for someone to recognize your worth before you start walking in it. Start with the mirror. Start with your own self-respect. The way you talk to yourself becomes the way you talk to the world. If you criticize yourself in silence, you shrink when it's time to speak in public. If you doubt yourself in private, your voice trembles in the moment of truth. Self-respect is not a luxury. It is the foundation. To fix being overlooked, you must first acknowledge how you've participated in your own invisibility. Every time you told yourself you weren't ready, every time you sat in the back row when you could have spoken up, every time you waited to be chosen instead of showing up with the boldness of someone who knew they belonged, you trained others to treat you the same way you treated yourself. This isn't blame, this is empowerment. Because once you see it, you can change it. Respect is not something you demand, it is something you command by how you move, how you speak, and how you carry your spirit. Are you walking into rooms with the belief that you deserve to be there? Or are you apologizing for your presence with every subtle gesture? Most people don't realize it, but your energy enters before your words do. It's not just what you say, it's the silence between your words, the conviction in your eye, the ease in your breath. That is what tells the room how to treat you. So I ask you now, how many doors have stayed shut not because you weren't capable, but because you didn't knock with confidence? How many opportunities have passed you by, not because you lacked potential, but because you presented it wrapped in hesitation? The world mirrors your energy. If you treat yourself as small, others will follow suit. If you walk with certainty, you give them no choice but to take notice. Your transformation begins not in the external, but in the internal. Being overlooked ends the moment you decide that you will no longer overlook yourself. Respect starts from within. It starts with how you wake up in the morning and greet your own reflection. It starts with the promises you keep to yourself when no one else is watching. The small disciplines, the whispered affirmations, the quiet refusal to settle. Build your inner gravity, and the world will feel it long before you open your mouth. This is the first step, and perhaps the most important. It may seem like the world makes random decisions. Some people get all the attention while others stay in the shadows. But this is not chance. You teach people how to treat you. You train them, often unconsciously, in every interaction. If you consistently play small, you condition others to expect little from you. If you consistently undervalue your words, others will learn to tune them out. If you consistently hesitate to lead, they'll stop offering you the position. This truth is not cruel, it is empowering. Every moment is a conversation. Even in silence, you are communicating something. Your posture, your tone, your presence, they all tell a story. And here's the secret few talk about: that story must be chosen. Too many people let others write their story for them. They let fear do the editing. They let rejection be the headline. But you, right now, can take the pen back. You can choose how you will be perceived, not with arrogance, but with calm clarity and a decision to no longer hide. Let me tell you this, people respond to clarity, not noise, not desperation, but clarity. And clarity begins when you stop waiting for permission. There is no committee in the sky deciding whether you are worthy of being respected. That decision starts with you. You either walk through life as your own advocate, or you become a passive character in your own story. You either speak with the certainty of someone who has something to offer, or you whisper like someone afraid to be seen. The choice is yours. But how do you build that kind of presence? It doesn't begin on the stage. It begins in the dark. It begins with the private rituals you perform when no one is watching. Respect is not earned in a moment. It is built over time, through self-discipline, through thought, through repetition. The way you speak to yourself becomes the foundation of how you speak to the world. If you want the world to listen, you must first listen to yourself with intention, with seriousness, and with love. Every overlooked person I've ever met had one thing in common. They underestimated the importance of how they carried themselves. They waited to be invited. They softened their brilliance so they wouldn't offend anyone. They masked their intensity so they wouldn't seem too much. And in doing so, they vanished in plain sight. If this sounds familiar, I'm here to tell you it's time to stop shrinking. You were not designed to blend in. You were designed to become unforgettable. But that only happens when you choose it. You must decide that your presence will no longer apologize for itself. You must decide that every room you walk into will feel your purpose, even before your words land. And I don't mean you should be loud or demanding. I mean you should be anchored, grounded, present. When a person who respects themselves enters a space, the energy changes, not because they're trying to impress, but because they're not trying at all. Their self-respect has become effortless, and others feel it without needing to be told. Let this sink in deeply. People sense certainty. They are drawn to it. Not arrogance, certainty. There is a quiet confidence that needs no announcement. When you are sure of your value, the room leans in, but when you are unsure, the room leans away. This is not magic. This is not charisma. This is alignment between your internal truth and your external expression. The more you align with who you truly are, the more people will feel drawn to you, not by force, but by resonance. You see, the world doesn't reward you based on how much you wish to be seen. It rewards you based on how boldly you show up. If your energy says, "I'm not sure I belong," the world will agree. If your voice says, "I hope they notice me," they probably won't. But if your very being says, "I know who I am, and I'm here to offer something real," then even in silence, they will feel it. That is the power of internal transformation. Its signal transcends word. Start small. Begin by noticing when you shrink. Notice the moments when you silence yourself out of fear. Notice the words you use to describe yourself when no one is listening. Do you speak with dignity, or do you speak with dismissal? Catch yourself, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Every self-defeating pattern is a thread you can pull on until it unravels. And as you do, you'll begin to see clearly. The problem was never the world overlooking you. The problem was how you were showing up. From this moment forward, carry yourself like someone worth respecting, even if no one claps, even if no one acknowledges you right away, even if it feels like you're alone. Because here's the truth. The world catches up to how you treat yourself. First they watch, then they mirror, and eventually they follow. But the first follower must always be you. Fourth thing, there comes a time in every person's life when they must decide what kind of experience they are willing to tolerate. If you continue to allow the world to overlook you, it will. If you accept being ignored, you will be. But if you raise your standard, not with bitterness, not with resentment, but with quiet certainty, the world around you begins to adjust. The invisible agreement between you and life starts to shift. Because life does not give you what you hope for, it gives you what you expect. The greatest shift in your journey will not be when others change their view of you. It will be when you refuse to accept less than what you know you deserve. This is not entitlement. This is alignment. You are not asking for handouts. You are standing in your truth. You are affirming your presence by your posture, your voice, your consistency. When your standard changes, the people around you will feel it even before you speak. They'll either rise to meet it or fall away. And that is as it should be. You don't rise by chasing validation. You rise by embodying self-respect. It's in the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you sit at the table, not with arrogance, but with calm assurance. People sense when someone is anchored in their worth. It's not loud, it's not showy, it's quiet power. And quiet power draws attention without trying to, because true value does not shout, it simply is. And when you begin to operate from that truth, the world begins to notice, because you are no longer asking for their permission. The people who change the world, move rooms, who get invited back to the table, are not always the most gifted. They are the ones who have developed an inner gravity. They have become immovable in their sense of purpose. They are clear about who they are and who they are not. And clarity, especially in a world of noise, is magnetic. If you want the world to see you differently, start by becoming unshakable in how you see yourself. Most people are waiting for a signal, a compliment, a promotion, a nod from someone they admire. But that's backward. Those things come after you've already claimed your worth. When you stop needing approval, you start attracting it. When you stop begging for respect, you begin commanding it. This is a law of energy, not just a law of success. The inner tone you live with becomes the external result you experience. Raise your standard, and the universe listens. But here's the secret no one tells you. Raising your standard is uncomfortable. At first you'll feel resistance. Your old patterns will fight back. Your habits will try to pull you into the comfort of invisibility. Your mind will say, "Who do you think you are?" But keep going, because every time you act in alignment with your higher self, you weaken the grip of the old one. And eventually, your standard becomes your default. What was once effort becomes ease. You must become intolerant of shrinking, intolerant of apologies you don't mean, intolerant of silence when you have something meaningful to say. This is not about aggression, it's about integrity, living in alignment with your own value. And as you do, the world will begin to treat you differently. Because people respond to what you tolerate. When you stop tolerating invisibility, when you stop accepting less than your worth, others are forced to meet you where you stand, or move out of your way. The overlooked are not always underqualified. Often they are over-accommodating. They dim themselves so others feel comfortable. They hesitate so others can go first. They play small thinking it's humility. But that is not humility, it is self-abandonment. And there is nothing noble about denying your own voice. You were not born to decorate the background. You were born to take your rightful place, fully, unapologetically, without shrinking. And when you do, others will either respect it or reveal why they don't belong in your life. Start today. Speak with intention, Walk with strength, say no with dignity, say yes with clarity. Do not let the world tell you who you are. You tell the world who you are, and you do it through action, not words alone. You become your own advocate. You become your own revolution, and once you've done that, you will never be overlooked again, because your energy will speak before you do, and when it speaks, the world will listen. There is a voice you carry that no one hears, but everyone feels. It is the quiet language of energy. Long before you speak, long before you introduce yourself or present your case, your energy has already made the first impression. Most people think communication is about words, but the most powerful form of communication is silent. It's the way your presence lands in the room. It's the tension in your shoulders, the steadiness in your eyes, the rhythm of your breath. That is what people are responding to. If you want to stop being overlooked, you must learn to master your energy before you master your words, your tone, your pace, your expression. All of it signals to the world how they should relate to you. Are you someone who commands attention without needing to demand it? Are you someone whose presence creates clarity, direction, and stillness? Or are you someone whose energy dissipates under pressure, who folds under uncertainty, who steps back when it's time to step forward? These are the questions that shape your destiny. You've been taught to fake it till you make it, but that's not the path to presence. The path is authenticity fused with intentionality. It is the merging of who you truly are with who you are becoming. It is the art of standing in your truth so fully that people cannot help but feel it. You do not need to perform, you need to become. And becoming begins with awareness. Every time you enter a space, ask yourself, what is my energy saying right now? Is aligned with how I want to be treated. Because here's the truth, energy doesn't lie. You can say all the right things, dress the right way, and even hold the right resume, but if your internal energy is uncertain, insecure, or apologetic, people will feel it, and they will overlook you. Not because they're cruel, but because people are drawn to strength. They are drawn to conviction. They are drawn to what is grounded, present, and whole. When your energy aligns with confidence, you don't have to prove yourself. You simply show up, and the room adjusts. But how do you change your energy? It begins with how you think. Your thoughts shape your emotions, and your emotions shape your energy. If your mind is filled with fear, doubt, and self-criticism, your energy will carry that burden into every conversation. But if your thoughts are rooted in self-respect, purpose, and a sense of mission, your energy will rise to match it. And when it does, people notice. Not because you force them to, but because energy cannot be ignored. Every day, you have a choice. You can show up distracted, depleted, disconnected, or you can show up centered, clear, and commanding. You can rush through the moment, hoping someone sees your worth, or you can walk into every situation as if you already belong there. And the truth is, you do belong. You just haven't been walking like you do. That changes today. The overlooked are not invisible. They are simply unaligned with their own power. Reconnect with your power, and the world will feel it. You are not too soft. You are not too quiet. You are not too much. You are exactly what the world needs. Once you present yourself with intention, stop trying to be what others want and start being fully what you are, on purpose, with presence and without apology. Presence is not about taking space, it is about becoming space. When you become the space where strength, clarity, and calm reside, people will want to be near you, not because of what you say, but because of who you are. This is not about perfection, it's about congruence. When your inner voice and outer expression begin to match, you become magnetic. And magnetism is the cure to being overlooked. You will no longer need to chase attention. You will attract it, not through manipulation, but through truth, not through spectacle, but through stillness. That is the power of real presence. That is the power you've been carrying all along. It just needed to be awakened, and now it is. From this day forward, you carry yourself like someone who matters. You enter rooms like someone who deserves to be there. You speak like someone who knows their voice is needed. You move like someone who has already been chosen, not by others, but by their own higher self. And when you do this consistently, something miraculous happens. the world begins to catch up. It begins to echo back what you've decided to become. There is a quiet moment in life, often unnoticed by the crowd, where a person finally decides, I will no longer abandon myself. That moment does not come with celebration, it does not come with applause, but it is the birthplace of transformation. From this moment, everything begins to change, not because the world becomes more generous, but because you stop negotiating your value. You begin to operate with a new principle, deliberate self-respect. And that principle alters your behavior, your posture, and your results. You see, respect is not something you ask for, it's something you live by. It is a personal code, a contract you sign with yourself that says, I will speak with integrity, I will carry myself with intention, I will not betray myself to fit in. When you begin to honor yourself consistently, you send a signal to the world, and that signal says, this person can no longer be overlooked. They are not asking for space, they are claiming it because it belongs to them. Deliberate self-respect is built through repetition. It is not a one-time decision, it is a daily choice. It is the way you show up when no one is watching. It's the quality of your thoughts when you're alone. It's the tone of your inner dialogue in moments of doubt. When you treat yourself with reverence, the world follows your lead. But if you treat yourself with impatience, disregard, or dismissiveness, others will reflect that energy back to you. You become the mirror the world responds to. Every time you silence yourself when your voice matters, you erode your foundation. Every time you accept treatment that feels beneath you, you weaken your self-impude. And every time you stay silent in the face of disrespect, you send the message both to yourself and others that you can be dismissed. But the opposite is also true. Every time you speak up, even with a shaking voice, you strengthen your spine. Every time you walk away from what insults your worth, you train your soul to rise. Most people think confidence is something you are born with or something you fake, but real confidence is born from congruence, the alignment between your internal truth and your external behavior. You feel powerful when you stop contradicting yourself. You feel strong when your actions validate your values, and you feel magnetic when you stop diluting your light for the comfort of others. That is what deliberate self-respect produces. Not arrogance, not superiority, just steady, undeniable presence. Now, let me remind you of something you may have forgotten. You are not a background character in someone else's story. You are not an afterthought, an extra, a placeholder. You are the main character of your own life, and if you do not begin acting like it, no one will treat you like it. Stop waiting for the moment where it all makes sense. That moment will never arrive until you decide to step fully into yourself, regardless of how others respond. You are not here to be chosen. You are here to choose. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It is sacred. It is the beginning of integrity. It is the act of telling the universe, I am ready. And once you commit to that choice, your entire world begins to shift. You speak differently. You walk differently. You tolerate differently. And that difference becomes the signal that alters every room you walk into. People cannot overlook what they feel is unshakable. And when your respect for yourself becomes non-negotiable, they will feel it, even if they don't yet understand it. You may feel resistance. You may lose people who once liked the version of you that made them comfortable. That is part of the process. The goal is not to be liked. It is to be real. And the more real you become, the more your presence will carry weight. It's not about being louder, it's about being truer. Trueness creates trust, not just with others, but with yourself. And self-trust is the source of power that no one can take from you. So, today, begin again. Choose yourself deliberately. Respect yourself quietly. Show up with intention. Speak with clarity. And carry yourself with the dignity of someone who knows they belong. Not because someone said so, but because you finally decided you do. And once that decision is made, your world begins to bend around it. Respect is not always given where it is due. Often it is given where it is demanded, not through aggression, but through quiet certainty. You may be overlooked not because you lack potential, but because you haven't yet mastered the unspoken rules of being taken seriously. These rules are not taught in school. They are not handed to you by society. They are learned through reflection, discomfort, and the decision to stop living beneath your own awareness. One of those rules is this: the world responds to people who respond to themselves. If you brush yourself off, if you belittle your own ideas, if you approach life as though you're interrupting rather than contributing, people pick up on that frequency. But if you stand behind your own thoughts with calm clarity, if you speak not with the hunger for approval, but with the assurance of truth, you become someone whose words land deeper. That's what changes the tone in the room. Another rule is presence. You do not need to say much when your presence says everything. When you enter a room anchored in who you are, you do not need to chase validation. You do not need to explain yourself in 100 directions. You do not need to rehearse your worth. You are simply there with all of yourself. And that presence becomes a silent language that the world understands better than words. People respect presence, not performance. And then there is the rule of ownership. To be taken seriously, you must own everything about yourself, your story, your flaws, your dreams, your decisions. Nothing erodes respect more quickly than someone who deflects responsibility. When you own your growth, your past, and your future, you become trustworthy in your own eyes. And that trust radiates. The world doesn't just want to be impressed. It wants to know that you stand behind what you say. Ownership does that. But perhaps the most overlooked rule is restraint. Power is not loud. It does not need to fill the room to prove it belongs there. It waits. It observes. It chooses the right moment. People who are consistently overlooked often give too much, too quickly, hoping to earn presence through volume. But respect isn't earned through excess. It is earned through precision. The right words, the right moment, the right tone. That's what lingers. That's what people remember. And let us not forget consistency. People watch you more closely than you think. They listen not only to what you say, but to what you repeat, what you uphold, what you reinforce through action. One powerful moment is not enough. To rise from the shadows, you must become consistent in how you carry yourself. Respect is built through patterns. When the world sees you show up with clarity again and again, it eventually adjusts. People stop doubting your presence. They start counting on it. You are not being asked to become someone else. These rules are not about imitation. They are about authenticity, refined. They are about becoming the most aligned version of yourself. Because the more authentic you are, the less effort it takes to be seen. The world is full of noise. What it longs for is someone real, someone steady, someone who isn't swayed by the winds of approval, but who walks their own path and leaves a trail for others to follow. So now the question turns to you. Are you ready to live by the unspoken rules? Are you ready to step into the kind of self-respect that does not ask for attention, but commands it through presence, ownership, restraint, and consistency? If so, your life will begin to shift, not by force, but by alignment. You will not need to beg for recognition. You will become it. And from that place, you will never again wonder why you are being overlooked, because you will no longer be. The most liberating truth you'll ever embrace is this: you do not need anyone to choose you. You do not need to be invited, validated, or approved. The moment you stop waiting for a seat at the table and realize you are the table, your entire life shifts. Being overlooked is often the byproduct of waiting. Waiting to be noticed, waiting to be accepted, waiting for a sign. But power does not wait. Power does sign. And today, you must decide to stop waiting. You must stop asking the world for permission to be great. You must stop seeking endorsement for your own presence. The world does not give you power. It responds to how you use it. And here is the miracle. When you stop trying to fit into other people's definitions, you free yourself to create your own. You stop searching for spots to belong, and you begin becoming a space where others want to belong. That's the difference between hoping to be chosen and choosing yourself. Again, the overlooked often feel like they're in a long line, waiting for their turn. But life is not a queue. It's not a sequence of approvals handed out in order. It's a canvas, and those who pick up the brush define the image. The people who rise are not always the ones who wait patiently. They are the ones who decide they've waited long enough. They carve paths where there were none. They create opportunities where others saw closed doors, and in doing so, they become unforgettable. You are not overlooked because you lack value. You are overlooked when you forget to act like the value you carry is enough. You are overlooked when you dim your light, hoping it won't offend. You are overlooked when you fold your voice in half to fit into spaces not made for your growth. But once you begin walking like someone who remembers they have something to offer, something no one else can replicate, you shift from asking to becoming. Becoming the spot means embodying your power before anyone recognizes it. It means becoming the energy, the voice, the presence that draws people in, not by trying, but by being. And being requires no justification. It is not about announcing yourself, it is about knowing yourself so deeply that your existence speaks on your behalf. And when it does, people pay attention. Not out of obligation, but out of instinct. Because the human spirit is wired to respond to truth, to depth, to realness. What is real will always rise, but only when it is no longer masked by performance, only when it is no longer buried beneath fear, only when you decide that even if no one sees you, you will not stop being yourself. That decision, quiet as it may be, changes everything. It releases the need for approval. It dissolves the ache of waiting. It fills the room with your energy before you've even said a word. And that energy becomes your new foundation. If you feel you've been passed over too many times, if you feel like others are always ahead while you remain unseen, I invite you to consider, what would happen if you stopped trying to be seen and simply became undeniable? What would happen if you stopped walking into rooms hoping for recognition and instead walked in as the recognition? That is not arrogance, that is alignment. It is the act of becoming the source rather than chasing the outcome. You are not here to compete for light, you are here to radiate. And the moment you do, fully, consistently, unapologetically, you stop blending into the background. You stop waiting for your moment. You realize the moment is you. And once you live like that, with consistency, the world can no longer overlook you because you have become too real to ignore. Within every person lives two voices, the inner critic and the inner leader. The critic whispers fear, second-guessing, and doubt. It tells you you're not ready, not enough, not the kind of person who gets picked. The leader, on the other hand, speaks softly at first, but with great truth. It reminds you of who you were before the world told you to shrink. And if you're constantly being overlooked, it's time to ask yourself, which voice have you been listening to? The inner critic does not arrive with facts, it arrives with echoes. Echoes of past rejection, childhood conditioning, subtle moments of dismissal that have shaped your belief about your place in the world. The critic is not malicious. It is simply outdated. It is a protective voice that was created when you didn't yet understand your power. But now you do, and that means you have a choice. You can keep following the voice that taught you to stay small, or you can awaken the voice that was always meant to lead. To stop being overlooked, you must first stop overlooking your own inner leader, that voice that tells you to stand tall, even when no one notices, that voice that encourages you to speak, even when others seem louder, that voice that urges you to keep showing up, even when recognition is delayed. The inner leader is not concerned with applause, it is concerned with alignment. And when you follow it, you begin to lead your life from within, rather than being led by the opinions of others. It is tempting to believe that when others fail to see your value, they are the problem. And sometimes they are, but more often the real battle is internal. You cannot command respect from the outside if you are under constant criticism from the inside. The way you speak to yourself becomes the script that the world unconsciously receives. So if your inner dialogue is filled with self-doubt, don't be surprised when others mirror that same hesitation back to you. But there's the beautiful truth. You are not bound to that voice. You can rewrite it. You can retrain it. And it begins with intention. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you believe in. Encourage yourself with the tone of someone destined for more. Replace every internal insult with the truth you choose to believe, even if it doesn't feel real yet. Because the inner leader does not wait for proof, it creates it by showing up consistently in spite of fear The transformation from invisible to unforgettable does not happen in front of an audience. It begins in silence, in the way you speak to yourself as you prepare for the day, in the way you narrate your worth as you make decisions, in the way you refuse to abandon yourself when no one else is offering support. This internal revolution precedes every external recognition. Because the most respected people in the world did not begin with admiration. They began with a decision to believe in themselves before anyone else did. When you amplify the inner leader, you stop seeking approval and start offering value. You stop chasing validation and start becoming a presence. Your words change, your posture strengthens, your presence deepens, and slowly, without force, the world begins to feel the difference. They may not know what changed, but they feel something, and that something is you, returning to your rightful place, no longer waiting, no longer shrinking, no longer silent. So today, make a vow to silence the critic, not by fighting it, but by outgrowing it. Replace doubt with direction, replace hesitation with intention, replace fear with faith. Faith not in perfection, but in progress. Faith not in being noticed, but in becoming worthy of notice through how you show up for yourself. That is how you stop being overlooked. You stop overlooking the voice inside that was made to lead. There is a moment in every journey where words are no longer enough. You've read the books, heard the advice, repeated the affirmations, and yet the transformation doesn't take root until you begin to live in alignment with what you say you believe. You cannot simply talk your way out of invisibility. You must walk your way out step by step, day by day, with action that reflects your inner conviction. Being overlooked ends when you become impossible to dismiss, not by shouting louder, but by walking truer. Alignment is not a concept, it's a lifestyle. It is the harmony between your values and your choices, your beliefs and your behavior, yourself from evil and your daily rituals. When your words and actions live in agreement, people feel that. They trust it. They remember it. In a world saturated with image and noise, alignment is rare, and because it's rare, it's magnetic. You don't need to beg for attention when your entire presence speaks the language of integrity. Look around and you'll see that people are drawn not to perfection, but to clarity. They respect those who are consistent in how they show up, those who follow through, those who keep promises, especially the ones they make to themselves. And yet, so many are overlooked because they are fragmented. Their words say one thing, their actions another. Their dreams speak of greatness, but their habits whisper doubt. If this is where you find yourself, it's not a reason for shame, it's a call to return to wholeness. The most powerful thing you can do is become whole, not flawless, but unified, not admired by all, but authentic with yourself. When you reach that place, you don't need to worry about who is watching. You begin to walk with your head held high, not because you are pretending to be confident, but because you are finally aligned. And alignment has a presence of its own. It makes others pause. It makes others reflect. It demands nothing, but it shifts everything. It is your daily walk that teaches the world how to treat you. The way you speak to a stranger, the way you manage your time, the way you carry yourself when no one is watching. These are the subtle declarations that say, "This is who I am." And over time, the consistency of your walk builds your reputation. Not the kind that can be taken away with gossip or criticism, but the kind that is rooted in truth. And truth has gravity. You may think you need more charisma, more exposure, more credentials. But the truth is, most of the time, what you need is alignment. When you walk in your truth, you don't chase. It comes to you. Opportunities find the prepared. Relationships respond to the grounded. And respect flows toward the one who no longer needs it to validate their worth. You become a mirror, a standard, a reminder of what self-respect looks like when it's fully embodied. This doesn't mean life will be without resistance. The moment you begin to walk in alignment, some will question you, some will pull away. But don't be disheartened. This is not rejection. It is refinement. Your new energy will repel what is not meant to walk with you, and it will attract what you never knew was waiting for the real version of you to arrive. Do not fear this transition. Embrace it. It means you are becoming impossible to overlook. Let this be the season you stop rehearsing who you could be and start living as who you truly are. Let this be the time when your actions become louder than your doubt. Let this be the chapter where you no longer adjust yourself to fit into rooms that were never built to hold your fullness. Walk in your truth, and when you do, the world will shift around you, not instantly, but inevitably. You've come this far not just to learn, but to remember. To remember who you were before the world asked you to shrink. To remember that respect is not something granted to the most obedient or the loudest, but to those who remember their worth even when it's inconvenient. If you've ever felt unseen, passed over, ignored, it was not because you lacked light. It was because you forgot how to aim it. The truth is, no one else can fix the way the world sees you. That is your job. And not because it's fair, but because it's powerful. The moment you take full responsibility for how you present yourself, not just your appearance, but your posture, your beliefs, your boundaries, your energy, you shift the game. You stop being a spectator in your own life. You stop waiting for recognition and start embodying it. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to stop hiding the strength you already carry. Every time you speak your truth without apology, you strengthen your voice. Every time you honor your boundaries, you declare your value. Every time you walk away from a room that refuses to see your worth, you make space for one that will. You do not become unforgettable by pleasing others. You become unforgettable by becoming undeniable. Not aggressive, not desperate, just so rooted in who you are that people feel it, even when you say nothing at all. This is the great turning point, the moment you stop living reactively and start living intentionally. When your words, your habits, and your standards rise to meet your potential, the world takes notice. Not because it's kind, not because it's suddenly fair, but because power cannot remain hidden for long. And once you begin walking as the person you were meant to be, your light becomes impossible to ignore. You are not here to be tolerated. You are here to be trusted, remembered, respected. But those things cannot happen until you trust, remember, and respect yourself first. Do not confuse humility with self-erasure. Do not confuse patience with silence. Do not confuse kindness with invisibility. The world needs your presence, not your apology. And if you want the world to treat you differently, you must begin by treating yourself like someone who matters, because you do. Look back now and realize, being overlooked was never your sentence. It was your signal. A signal that something had to shift. A signal that your posture needed adjusting, your energy needed remembering, your voice needed reclaiming. The pain of being unseen wasn't a punishment, it was a wake-up call. And you answered it. You are here now, not to fit in, but to rise. So rise. Walk forward as someone who has remembered their strength. Speak with the authority of someone who no longer doubts their place. Stand in every room as if it were built to hold your greatness, not because you demand it, but because you embody it. From this moment forward, you are no longer overlooked. You are chosen by the only person who ever truly needed to choose you, you. And now that you've chosen yourself, the world will have no choice but to catch up.